Hello again. Well, it's been a while since I have recorded my last video, so welcome. And in this one, we will be talking about the concept of comparative advantage. What is comparative advantage? Comparative advantage is being able to produce a product at a lower opportunity cost than your counterpart. New Zealand does not have a comparative advantage in coffee. Can New Zealand grow coffee? Can we grow coffee in New Zealand? Yes, we can. We can. Right? We can build greenhouses, do whatever. But you realize that the opportunity cost, the amount of resources that we need to basically waste in order to produce coffee is astronomical, and it simply makes no sense. New Zealand has a comparative advantage in lamb, in wine, in milk, dairy products, right? We do not have to give up too many additional resources to produce more of those products. International education, again, pre-COVID tourism, that sort of thing. These are the types of goods and services that we can produce more of without having to sacrifice a lot more resources. And that effectively what comparative advantage means. So in this video, I would like to illustrate this concept numerically. And one of the key points that I have been making in class and I will be making in class throughout our block course is that international trade makes both parties better off. So let's say we have two countries. We have China and we have New Zealand. For a couple of years now, China has been New Zealand's largest trading partner, has overtaken Australia. That has been our largest trading partner for some time. And let's say that we have two products, and the products are rice and lamb. Again, very, very simple little economy. Okay, obviously this example is ridiculously oversimplified, but it does illustrate the point. So let's say that the production possibilities frontier in China is like this. They can either produce 100 tons, millions, trillions of tons of rice, or they can produce 100 trillions of tons of lamb, or anything in between. So if they spend all their resources on rice, they will produce 100. If they spend all their resources on lamb, they produce 100. So you can see that what is the opportunity cost of 1 unit of rice? It's 1 unit of lamb. So it's a 1 for 1. If you want to produce 1 more unit of rice, you have to give up 1 unit of lamb, and vice versa. So it's a 1-1. For New Zealand, I'm just looking at my cheat sheet, so I don't forget the numbers. It's 5 and 10. Look, we probably can't grow rice in New Zealand. Well, I mean, we can. The cost would be astronomical, but again, bear with me here. So let's say that if we pour all our resources in rice production, we would get 5 tons, so hundreds of thousands of tons of rice. If we put all our resources into producing lamb, we produce 10. And I have specifically chosen this example. New Zealand is a much, much smaller economy than China, but nevertheless, I will convince you, I hope I will convince you by the end of this video, that China will benefit from trade with New Zealand as well. So, what is the opportunity cost here? How much lamb do we have to give up for each unit of rice? The answer is 2. If I want to increase my rice production by 1, I have to give up 2 lambs. So for China, it was 1. For us in New Zealand, it's 2. China has comparative advantage in rice. What about lamb? How much rice do I have to give up to produce 1 extra unit of lamb? And the answer is 1/2. Okay. I have to give up 5 to produce 10. So 1/2. Here it was 1. Here it's 1/2. New Zealand has a comparative advantage in lamb. So China, rice, New Zealand, lamb. Nothing terribly shocking here. Now, let's say that we have an economy before trade. So all borders are closed, no trade is happening. So, and just for the sake of argument, I'm choosing a midpoint here. It doesn't really matter which point I choose. So let's say that China will produce 50 tons of rice and 50 tons of lamb. And New Zealand will have 2.5 tons of rice and 5 tons of lamb. Okay. All right, now, and again, in this world, we only have 2 countries, a much larger country, China, and a much smaller country, New Zealand. So what happens after we open our countries to trade? Does it make any sense for New Zealand to produce rice? That is ridiculously expensive. It's twice as expensive as what it is in China. The answer is no. So New Zealand probably will not produce any rice and will produce 10 units of lamb. Okay. China, of course, cannot really go 0 and 100 because New Zealand is such a smaller, is so much smaller than, well, simply will not compensate their switching to rice completely, but they still will shift their production towards a good in which they have comparative advantage. Now, I have just, before recording this video, I have came up with a couple of numbers. So for China, it will be 54 units of rice and 46 units of lamb. Now comes the trade. New Zealand. Oh, this is not a great color. Let me use a different one. New Zealand will send 5 units of lamb to China. In exchange, China will send 4 units of rice to New Zealand. Okay. Look, it works for both countries because we are getting 4 units of rice for 5 units of lamb. Normally, we would only get 2.5. And China would get 5 units of lamb for 4 units of rice. Normally, they get 1 for 1. They would get 4 for 4. So it works for both countries. And after trade, what will be our consumption bundle? For China, it will be 50 and 5 plus 46, 51. For New Zealand, it's 4 and 5. Beautiful. We are comparing this bundle here for China. This is before trade. And this is after trade. China has improved its well-being. New Zealand, this is before trade. This is after trade. Again, both countries become better. Look, there is a range of numbers here that we can work out. It's not terribly important. What is important is international trade allows countries to consume outside of their production possibilities right here. So if we are a completely isolated economy, with no trade. Opening us to trade allows us to increase our consumption beyond what we were able to do just on our own. And look, it makes sense mathematically, but it should make sense intuitively. You should not try to produce something that someone else is so much better at. Okay, I should not try fixing a car. I am not good at it. I should teach you guys some economics, make some money off it, and go ahead and pay a mechanic to fix my car. That works on an intuitive level, and as we've just seen, it has a mathematical, well, not a mathematical, but rather numerical application as well. In my next video, I will give you an example of comparative advantage in financial markets. This relates more to the field of investments, but it is nevertheless quite an interesting example. Thank you for listening, and I will see you later.